Mana? Okay. Uh, Cik Wan, can you allow I'm trying to get into the okay, join now. All right. Okay. Now I can see both. Okay. All right, let's begin, yeah. Okay, so today, welcome to today's class. So this is a revision class as per been mentioned by our previous speakers dulu kan. So this time around will be on the topic pricing decision, right? And then, so as you can see from the emoji here, it's just a metaphor to show that I guess for this particular topic by now, students are hopefully more excited because it's more on the, I would say a walk on the park, yeah, because it's very chill as compared to other calculative atau chapters yang kita pernah belajar sebelum ni kan. So hopefully let's see today's agenda, yeah. But before that, I would like to give a round of applause to our previous respectful speakers who are very knowledgeable, right? And then also throughout the whole UiTM system, who's been teaching this particular course code, right? So on the first topic, I believe that Sir Afiq has gone through with you a very thorough revision on budgeting and budgetary control. And then Sir Rizwan, you heard him co-hosting the session just now, kan? So he had given a very insightful sharing on standard costing and variance analysis. I hope you have learned a lot from him and implement the techniques shared, as well as the more, I would say, the killer part of the paper, which is the short and medium term decision making presented by Yang Bahagia Datin Mashita. And today is on pricing decision. Okay, kita teruskan ya. Okay, now this is some ground rules for today's session. Just a little reminder, just chill back and relax about this is a very I would say a lighter on a lighter note, yeah, punya topic. So to begin with, this session will be recorded as per mentioned by Sir Rizwan, right? And today's session is not a lecture session, okay, but it will be hopefully an interactive session whereby I will share with you some tips for your final assessment. And I believe that the previous speakers as well have done the same, but hopefully I'll share from my point of view pula, okay? And then at all times, if possible, try to keep your microphone muted. Unless if you have something to say, or and if you're ready to speak, maybe you can raise your hand icon and then begin to unmute yourself. Lepas tu, kalau if you have any questions, feel free to drop your message at the chat box, all right, at any time. And then, so sit back and relax. I hope you have your drinks and your snacks easily accessible around you, and then bring in that positive energy throughout the whole session. Kita ada sampai pukul 5, right? Okay, but I'll try to hopefully finish it off in perhaps earlier, okay, because I think very little as compared to previous punya chapter, which is a bit more heavy, right? And at the end of the session, please remember to fill out the attendance and feedback form using the link that will be provided. So please make sure that you stay tuned until the end of the session. Okay, and also not forgetting that we will have a quick photo session before we bid our goodbyes. Okay, all right. Nah, for today's agenda, kalau you tengok pengisian dia lebih kurang sama je. Macam Sir Afiq, right? Until ke yang bagi Datin, right? But hopefully this time around, instead of giving some sharing of the tips to prepare on the last minute reminders being mentioned at the end of the session, this time around, I want to highlight it at the beginning of the session so that you pay close attention to throughout not only this chapter, but all the chapters that's being assessed or examined in the final exam. Okay, so to begin with, kita akan tengok the topic objectives, just a recap, and then we're going to look into some insights that we've gathered from fellow examiners and teaching lecturers about some common findings and feedbacks, all right, based on students' answer. Okay, so these are based on the previous semester students, yeah, not only the current one, but I mean to say the previous years as well. Okay, and then likewise, what Sir Afi, Sir Rizwan, then Datin has mentioned about in terms of the final exam time management. So I will repeat the same thing on terms of how do we want to gauge the time given, all right, so that you don't stress out to the very last minute. And then also, I'm going to hopefully share with you on understanding the cognitive level that being assessed so that students see uh, how in depth will the questions be tested in terms of the difficulty level ataupun complexity level of the exam questions. And then also I'll walk through with you about understanding the question requirements, specifically paying attention to the theory section. Because in this chapter, if we are going to browse through later, kita akan nampak that in general, the total marks allocated for this particular topic will be about 15 marks, right? Sometimes it can stretch up to perhaps 9 or 8 marks given solely on the theory part sahaja. Okay, so we want to make sure that we can try to maximize this opportunity. And then the last part is understanding some important concepts, okay, so that you can apply when you perform your calculations. Okay, all right. So the learning objectives, by now, it's already week 13. Yeah. So I hope that by now, when you have gone through your lecture, right, in your class, and then doing your tutorials, by now you should be able to gather or achieve all these learning objectives from number one, knowing what are the different pricing methods. And by now, you should be able to explain those different pricing methods. Number two, able to explain the concept of target costing, what are its main objectives, the advantages, its limitations, and whatnot. Okay, and then able to determine the target cost, uh, target profit, and as well as how do we calculate the cost gap or how do we reduce that cost gap, right? And last but not least is to explain the pricing strategies that are made available in our reference in order to achieve the competitive advantage in the business landscape. Okay, so as you can see, there's a snapshot of these two YouTube links. I've already typed in the link here, right? So you perhaps later on I can try to copy this link and put it in the chat box, right? Just as a recap for only two parts of the theory session for pricing decision in terms of the pricing method as well as the pricing strategies. Okay. Now, in a nutshell, the chapter talks about the process of setting the suitable price to be charged for each product or service to ensure that products can be sold in the market, right? And then will be appreciated by the customers in order for the business to remain competitive, right? Or to ensure the business going concern, right? So now, the chapter overview, it looks very little, kan? Kita ada pricing method and pricing strategies. So of which the traditional method, I believe that you have had sufficient prior knowledge with regards to calculating the pricing methods using full cost, marginal cost, and then how do we calculate minimum pricing. So now the non-traditional method that we would like to emphasize under pricing decision under MAF 551 would be target costing, right? And then we also have other theory sections, right, that test students' knowledge on understanding those common pricing strategies. Now, in certain references, especially the one that's being highlighted in your Langfield Smith 8th edition, they've mentioned about, say, 7 common strategies. But if you are going to refer to other references or reading materials, they can stretch up to 10 or even more. Okay, but either ways, make sure that you read from a valid resource. And then also not forgetting there will be factors influencing those pricing decisions. All right, now this is the part where I would like to share, of which I would like to thank to all the examiners who has given full cooperation in terms of so that we can share with students on what were the common findings or feedback based on students' answers, right? Okay, number one, we pose a question on this opinion on how students perform in understanding this topic in general. So, thumbs up. It seems that in previous semesters, students' performance was that they did very well, fairly well, and safe to say is on above average. So, kudos to your seniors, and I hope that this also serves as a motivation for you and also to uphold to the challenge to perform perhaps better, right? And then in terms of the comments on whether the majority of students attempted the theory questions and what were their performance. Okay, the good thing is majority tried the level best to do up the theory questions. However, based on the students' answers, they were not able to write effectively, which could also mean that they lack in either reading, having a good understanding of the topic, all right, a strong grasp of the topic, or perhaps a lack of practice in writing those theory answers. Okay. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Now, assessment of whether students' answers indicate a comprehensive understanding of what they had studied. So, again, based on their writing skills, it seems that students, a few, yeah, just a few, did not fully comprehend what they have read or learned. So this leads to wrong answers. Okay, very wrong answers. Hence, no marks being awarded. Okay. Also, students have their ideas to write. Okay, based on those keywords ataupun main points that they put onto paper. However, they struggle to put it in words of what the knowledge that they have learned. Okay, so I mean to say they struggle to articulate their thoughts clearly. So, which means that perhaps perhaps students did not again understood what they have learned. Okay, and then this is a very common one. Okay, whereby students provide one word sentence or incomplete sentences, or worst case they leave it blank. Now, I hope you don't fall into this category because this shows that this is due to poor time management. Yeah. So, I mean to say that either you are too engrossed in answering all the other calculation questions, question 1 to 5, right? But then lesser attention. Lesser attention is being paid onto answering the theory parts, yeah, because they generally students who are very eager to answer all the calculation part, and then they will then leave blank and attempt to answer the theory question at the end of that third hour, which is also very risky because sometimes the theory questions can save students from falling into the lower performance students. Yeah, great. Okay, the next one would be the student's performance in calculations, particularly in the target costing questions, and whether were students able to compute the answers accurately. Now, this one here, again, I would like to congratulate generally, right? Students perform very well with their computations. So good job. I hope, again, you can uphold to this standard, okay? I believe so, judging from your test performance, perhaps, right? And then the most common mistakes observed in students' work. All right. Typically, there will be a case given to you, right? And then when questions being posed, such as advice, comment, or provide feedback, right? Or perhaps what else that requires to for you to explain as if you are a consultant. Okay, and this part is a bit weak because students are not able to relate to the question or the case, or perhaps based on their computations, they were also not able to explain further. Okay, hence, I'm not able to advise the business in what is the most feasible option to be made. And then students have a common confusion between the term margin and markup. Well, this is very little, not many, yeah, but again, there are some students who still have that misconception between margin and markup, right? And also did not or wrongly understood or comprehend the entire question or the case. Okay, any masalah besar lah. Yeah. Okay. So some tips or strategies that the examiners shared for improving students' understanding and also to improve the scores on this topic will be, of course, without a doubt, students will have to read, and read. Yeah. So not just skim or browse through the textbook or the reference given, right? But you need to understand the concepts, the foundation of it, the fundamentals, right? The basics, so that you can then put it into words that you can understand, right? So again, use the recommended reading materials. In this case, would be Langston Smith, right? Then again, practice, practice, practice. Of course, as the term goes, practice makes perfect. So both calculation and theory question, students will need to do more practice on. And then also keep writing. This part here, I would like to emphasize that students should use simple but complete sentences. Okay, don't leave incomplete or hanging sentences, because then examiners may be skeptical to give you or award you marks that you deserve. Okay, so before moving on, please ask yourself, do I understand what I have written? If you did, then chances are, us examiners will also have a good understanding of what you're trying to put on paper, okay? Because we cannot make assumptions. And then recheck your answers, that is if you have the time, and then don't leave any questions blank, please. And then make lots and lots of dua, and then of course seek your parents' blessings too before you go for the paper, to the exam hall. And of course, tawakal. So trust the process. You've got this. Okay. All right. Now, the final exam time management. Again, in the previous session by Natin, I guess, she also mentioned about how can you allocate time accordingly for you to answer all the questions, because it is a requirement in this paper that students must answer all 5 questions in the paper, MEF 551, of which you are given only 3 hours to complete the exam. And so this means that you need to plan your time well. Okay. So the good news here is that you're the pilot. So be in charge of it. So 180 minutes given. So the suggested time here, right? The allocated time. So there are 5 questions, right? So the first question, you are advised to spend at least 36 minutes or less. And then question 2, 27 minutes. Question 3, 45 minutes. Question 4, 27 minutes. And question 5 is another 45 minutes. Okay, so, and you know already the arrangement of the questions. Question 1 is typically on flexible budgeting. Question 2 will be on standard costing and variance analysis. Question 3 is the most interesting part, which is your short and medium term decision making. Question 4 is pricing decision, right? Like I said, a walk in the park. And then question 5 will be transfer pricing. Okay. Right. So what happens if you can complete within or less than 3 hours? So that's good news. But here's the game plan. Number one, you need to revisit your answers again. Don't be too overconfident, right? So make sure you check all the pages, fill in any blanks if there are any, and then recheck everything again. And also, most importantly, ask yourself, did I miss out any questions, especially those theory part that you felt that you had the time to come back to, right? So, and then what about those tricky ones? So make sure that there's no little or small silly errors, yeah? Especially when time of essence, then you are too eager to answer, and then some careless mistakes can be done. Okay, now the next part here, like I said, I wish that I can help you understand in terms of the cognitive level being assessed. So generally, when academics prepare the exam questions, these questions will be based on the Bloom's taxonomy framework here. You can see this pyramid here, right? So the lower level cognitive skills will be tested on the lowest tier and the second tier. So in terms of remember and understand, and this moving forward, the third tier onwards represents the higher order thinking skills or higher level cognitive skills, right? So of which, if you can see here, okay, these are the chapters or topic being tested in the final exam, right? Question number 1, like I said earlier on, will be on budgeting and budgetary control. And then chapter 2 is on standard costing and variance analysis. And right until question number 5, responsibility accounting transfer pricing. So these are the cognitive level that these questions are designed to test students' knowledge. All right. So as you can see, C1 belongs in the category of knowledge, right? So students are required to remember. Okay, so meaning to say the questions, the verbs that will be used when academics prepare the question paper, but the verbs that will be used are such as label, names, or identify, or state, right? Or define. Okay, so meaning to say that a one sentence answer perhaps is acceptable. Okay, so and then now look into pricing decision, right? Pricing decision here. So C2, C3, and C4. These are the cognitive level or how the level of difficulty or complexity on how the questions will be designed. So it falls in this category, C2. So you're generally going to see questions with the verbs such as identify or explain briefly or what else can we see here? Summarize. Rarely we see that compare, perhaps, yeah. And then C3 will be calculate, compute, right? And then C4 is prepare, comment, interpret, right? Discuss, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the total marks, right? This will be the segregation of marks. In total will be 100 marks, of which will be converted to 60%. Remember, I think you are already made known of this, right? So it's total marks is 100%, and we will be converted to 60%, and your continuous assessment of another 40%, right? So from here, you can gauge how many minutes do you require to complete your pricing decision question. So since the total marks is 15, so 15 marks or divided by a total of 100 marks and multiply by the 3 hours. So that means that you are required to complete the question within 27 minutes. So that's how we calculate in terms of what will be the best allocated time for each and every of these questions in the final exam. Okay, right? I hope it's clear so far, right? Am I going too fast or it's okay? Okay, maybe I can just carry on, okay? Okay, now this is the part that I would like to give emphasis on. Right, this part is about understanding the question requirements, especially under the theory section. Bear in mind that the Bloom's taxonomy and verbs that will be utilized in order to gauge students' understanding and how you answer the question. Okay, so let's take an example at the past year exam question, July 2024, right? So there are in total 3 major questions, right? The total marks allocated here will be 15 marks. And take a look at the theory or the concepts and or testing the students' understanding of the concepts, 5 marks and 6 marks, right? So that is a total of 11 out of 15 marks. It's solely based on your understanding of the topic. And if you are able to reiterate onto paper of what you have learned, right? So see how significant theory question is now, right? As compared to other questions, right? Right from budgeting or even to standard costing, it forms a small or minor part, not as major as the pricing decision section. But so this shows that you should not leave the question blank. Okay, so let's begin by looking into the first part. All right, so the first question here requires students to explain briefly 2 factors, right, influencing pricing decisions. So we'll try to do some revision here a little bit if we can, all right? So these are the areas where students can be tested, yeah? So the factors influencing pricing decision, it falls into the category of either they are the internal factors of the firm or external factors of the firm. So for example, for internal factors of the firm are such as the product cost, right? And the company's objectives or goals and mission. And in terms of what are some other organizational factors, right? And then the marketing mix and also the product differentiation. How can they differentiate? Or in terms of the uniqueness of the product. And then there are also other factors that can influence the pricing decisions on external factors such as the level of intensity of the competition among the business rivals, those who sell similar products like yours. And then in terms of customers' demand, in terms of suppliers' terms and conditions, Okay, and then also in the economic conditions, if it's going through a recession, or is there inflation, or is there an economic downturn, so on and so forth. And then what are things that these are things whereby customers, or sorry, the organization cannot have full control of. Yeah, it's beyond their control. So again, the next one is the consumer's preferences, and then the last one would be the government policy or rules and regulation, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at how the suggested solution um, look like. Yeah. Okay, so there are many factors that can influence pricing decision. So of which you are only required to write down two, right? So here are some of them that you can select from. So the first one is customer value. Then we have competitive behavior, product cost, market positioning, legal, political, and ethical issues. Now, if you have read or you have studied this chapter, you would notice that honestly speaking, you do not need to memorize, right? As long as you understand the concept, or you understand how these factors can influence the pricing decision, generally, you can also explain in simple words, right, of what you understood. So you don't have to remember word by word, but all you need to do is to get the keywords right. Okay, for example, the customer value. So you know that the pricing can be influenced, right, in terms of how customers perceive the product, right? So that with that, it allows the company to put a higher price, right, for those who really appreciate the product, and also set at a lower price when those who are cost sensitive, right, cost sensitive individuals. Okay, so the explanation can sound something like this. So pricing is influenced by the perceived value of the product or service to the customer. So higher perceived value allows for higher pricing, right? Because why? No complaints. They appreciate those products and the uniqueness of the product. And then while lower perceived value may require competitive pricing. Okay, so I mean to say at a lower or reasonable cost, right? So, and then the next one is the competitive behavior, which talks about those existing competitors, right? Existing business rivals in the marketplace, right? Or the new entrants who are also vying on similar customers and selling similar kind of products. So their actions and pricing strategies as well may have an impact on the pricing decision. So what they need to do is they need to adjust their prices to remain competitive or differentiate themselves in the market, and also to avoid losing the market share, right? Before it goes to other business owners. Okay, the next one will be product cost. All right, this I guess you would know by now that what consists or comprised of the product cost would be the direct materials, labor, overhead, and also others overheads like, and we also have distributing, marketing, the products, and all of these sets as the baseline for pricing. And all this cost must cover the price itself. The selling price must cover the cost and provide a profit margin while remaining attractive to customers, so that they don't lose these customers, or so that they don't run away to other competitors. And the next one will be market positioning, of which this involves how a company positions its product in the market relative to their competitors. Okay, for example, we have premium brand type of products. Okay, they typically charge a higher price, and then while budget brands or those lower pricing to attract price sensitive customers. Okay, so it depends on who are the customers. And the last but not least here, as suggested in the answer, would be legal, political, and ethical issues. So these are pertaining to laws and regulations such as price fixing restrictions or anti-dumping laws, right? Impacting pricing decision and political stability, ethical considerations like fair pricing or avoiding exploitation, which also play a role. So these anti-dumping laws are the rules set for to avoid foreign companies in selling in the local market, because they may sell lower than the fair market value. All right. So this is unfair practice and unethical. Hence, the government will have to intervene. All right. So of which from here you can see that uh, any 2 points, right, is awarded 1 mark, right, for the main ideas here, and the explanation here given will be awarded another um, 1.5 marks, right? So in total there will be 5 marks. So make sure when you answer, please answer in full sentence. As per the cognitive level tested here, the verb tested here is explain. So wajarlah you kena buat ayat yang complete and of course not definitely not one sentence line. Okay? All right. The next one here, still in the same past year exam question, which is July 2024, right? So this one here, they've given you a scenario. Okay, so this is how interesting the topic can be. They've given you a scenario, right? And then you, as the business consultant or management consultant, you need to advise the management on what would be the best pricing strategy, right? So the management of Time Elegance wants to hear your answer. So take a look at the case here. It says Time Elegance, a distinguished luxury watch brand. Yeah. So look into these keywords yang will help you to distinguish which is the best pricing strategy. So they are selling luxury watch brand and they're gearing up to launch its latest limited edition masterpiece, decorated with rare materials and cutting edge technology. So the product cost per watch is notably higher than its predecessors, prompting the marketing team to deliberate between the two sophisticated pricing strategies, either premium pricing and market skimming. So now in the following paragraph, it tells us the features, okay, the features of this pricing strategy. So it says here, premium pricing strategy involves setting a relatively high price, aligning with the new timepiece exclusivity, craftsmanship, and advanced features. So by positioning the watch at a premium price, Time Elegance aims to target the product to consumers who appreciate uniqueness and are willing to invest in a symbol of status and sophistication. Now, do you think this can suit the luxury watch brand? Now, let's take a look at the last paragraph here that talks about market skimming strategy and what are the features, right? So it entails initially setting a high price to capitalize on early adopters and enthusiasts who are eager to acquire the latest innovation. However, over time, the price will gradually decreases, making the watch more accessible to a broader audience. So you are now required to discuss. Look at the verb says discuss the most suitable pricing strategy approach for elegance. So logically, you cannot be giving uh, three short sentences, right? For you to gain that 6 marks. Doesn't make sense, isn't it? So again, this requires you to um, critically discuss, okay? Based on what you've learned, based on what you've gathered the information here, the keywords, and then the features of both of these pricing decision, which may suit best. Okay, so look into the suggested solution here. They've given some techniques in answering the question whereby they had um, distinguished between the advantages of premium pricing over the limitations of market skimming, right? So you can begin your answer somewhat along the line macam ni lah, okay? Considering the unique attributes of Time Elegance latest limited edition watch, both premium pricing and market skimming present viable options. So maksudnya boleh lagi that they consider lah, either or. However, the recommended strategy is the premium pricing approach. Now, why do you say so? Your answer can be supported or justified based on those features mentioned in the case, right? So you look into what are they selling? What makes you say that you can sell them at premium pricing? Right? Why not market skimming? So look into the objective of Time Elegance in selling this watch. So the first keyword here is luxury watch brand, right? And then also limited edition masterpiece. Then rare materials and cutting edge technology, right? And then the cost per watch is notably higher. So if you recall what we've mentioned earlier on about what is premium pricing or what you've learned, so this may suit best, right? So then you continue by saying the premium pricing strategy aligns seamlessly with Time Elegance brand image, emphasizing exclusivity. And then we have craftsmanship and cutting edge technology. So by setting a higher price, right, the brand reinforces the perception of the watch as a symbol of status and sophistication. Everything here is being taken from the case, right? So how are you able to relate your answers to the case? That is a bonus point for you. Okay. So this strategy not only caters to a niche market of discerning customers who appreciate luxury and uniqueness, but also allows the brand to maintain an aura of exclusivity, right? Right. Then you continue by looking into or mention what are the limitations or disadvantages of market skimming. So while market skimming could generate quick revenue by targeting early adopters, it may not fully capture the essence of Time Elegance luxury positioning because it's only a quick, a very fast money strategy, right? So they want to capture as much as of the market share or revenue in a short period of time. However, this can be detrimental to the company's long-term objective. Now, look, market skimming may lead to a perception of the watch as a trend rather than a timeless luxury item. So it doesn't match. Okay, potentially diluting the brand's long-term image. Diluting here means to weaken the the brand name, or the reputation of the product, right? And also weakens the company's position. So, in conclusion, the premium pricing strategy is recommended for Time Elegance as it harmonizes with the brand's values and fosters a sustainable, high end image in the market. So, this approach not only maximizes profitability but also reinforces Time Elegance position as a leader in the luxury watch industry. Baru langam. Okay, so baru okay that we know that the appropriate pricing strategy would be premium pricing. Definitely not market skimming. Okay, because over time they need to sell the watch at a low price, and this cannot be done for Time Elegance because so much so that the luxury watch brand needs to uphold its brand name and all the technology and features. This would not be the best strategy, right? Not market skimming. Okay, another way of looking at it is that either you want to put it in a manner that you compare between the advantages and limitations, or perhaps you want to talk about the features or characteristics about the pricing strategy. So maybe you can begin with telling that, okay, yes, you agree that premium pricing is the best approach. Okay, reason why? Because of, okay, then you talk about the features of the premium pricing strategy and why it suits best. So you bawa balik all those information from the case, plug it here, all right, and then explain that premium pricing is ideal if Time Elegance seeks to enhance its brand equity, prioritize profitability over volume sales, something along the lines macam tu lah, right? And then also talk about some features, bukan nak kata you define, but try to relate to the story of Time Elegance, right? So market skimming again may not be feasible due to so and so because the approach risks undermining the brand's exclusivity, especially if price reductions are perceived as making the product less luxurious. So yang ni berlaku brand dilution. Okay, so we don't want that. Not for Time Elegance. Therefore, you recommend premium pricing strategy will be more suitable approach for Time Elegance. Okay, boleh? Bukan nak suruh buat cerpen, tapi sentences as if you are the consultant of the firm, then you are there to convince to the management that look here, premium pricing works best because so and so. Okay? Alright. Then kita tengok lagi. Alright. The past year exam question January 2024. Okay, this is the whole entire question. 15 marks, right, allocated. 5 marks, right, is dedicated or allocated for theory section, whereby students are required to describe two pricing strategies that the company should apply in order to sustain its position in the water filtration market. Okay, so I think by the end of today's revision, you can already tell what will be some of the most important theory parts that you need to pay attention to. Okay, because it will be repeated. But maybe some other parts, like such as objectives, disadvantages, um, ethical implications, don't forget to read those portions as well. Okay, and then, okay, so the two pricing strategies. So, like I said, in this reference, like Landfill Smith has highlighted, right, may consist all the 7 common pricing strategies, right, from premium pricing, penetration, market skimming. I have a question. Norfiza Osman, you raise your hand. Is there anything?
It's okay. It's okay.
Thank you. Thank you. So all is well.
Sorry? Oh, so
Okay,
okay.
okay. Okay,
Just in
okay.
case kalau ada apa, you can text in the chat box sebab I pun tengah refer to 2 screens right now.
Alright, alright.
I said I'm borrowing a friend of mine, yeah. Okay, so again, coming back to this. So there are 7, okay. So you only have to select 2 saja, okay. So don't crack your head over it. Choose the ones that you're most confident of explaining, right? Mana you paling understand, bukan hafal ya, understand. So then it will show in the way you answer your question. Again, this one here says describe, bukan state, bukan list. So again, you need to form full sentences. Okay, so again, if you need any explanation again, it's either you want to do your revision again, I can also drop the YouTube link later. Okay, right, on these revision for the understanding of common strategies. So let's take a look at the definition dulu lah, okay, before you relate to the question, because the question just now says that diorang jual apa ni, tabletop water filter name as Spritzer. Okay, lepas tu this is the scenario, okay, and then that they are now undergoing stiff competition, so they want to change the price of this product, and then they've given what is the current policy. So you're going to explain which is the best proposal. Okay, then but the first part here requires you to explain the pricing strategy dulu. Okay, you can bring back your gather again what you have learned, right? Your what you have learned and kemudian memorize lah. Okay, what you understood. Okay, so the first one, let's say for example kita nak ambil premium pricing. So you understand that premium pricing is when it's a practice that establishes a price that is higher as compared to your competitors, and because of the uniqueness of the product. Okay, that's how they differentiate itself. The uniqueness of the product, or when the product is first to market and the business has a distinct competitive advantage. So they are able to sell at a premium price, or perhaps they are the sole seller. So a high price designed to reflect quality, reputation, and status, right? It's a privilege, isn't it? If you have a premium good. So the next one is, say, for example, the next common strategy. You want to talk about predatory pricing. So what is predatory pricing? This is an illegal act, yeah, of setting prices low in attempt to eliminate the competition, right? So you want to monopolize the situation. So the predatory pricing violates antitrust law as it makes markets more vulnerable to a monopoly. Okay, now you bring in or you relate to the case, because you're going to describe, right, the two strategies here, and then how do you relate to the case in order to help them to sustain their position in that water filtration market. Okay, so the suggested solution here has given this manner, okay, of answering. So the two pricing strategies for the company to apply in order to stay relevant in that particular industry, which is the water filtration market. Number one, dia kata product differentiation, bukan premium pricing, sorry, product differentiation in terms of how they going to differentiate their products. So in terms of how do they price their goods. So let's say this company say Kain Sdn Berhad should create a unique product for the market, and then it is a defensive competitive response for a company faced with a strong low cost competitor. So product differential may be in the form of maybe packaging style, quality. Sometimes they can differentiate in terms of customer service, right, or brand image. So the company may utilize their position as a market leader. Okay, so this is also one way of explaining if they are to implement the premium pricing because they are selling at a high price. Okay, and then because of the uniqueness of the features of the product. And then the next one is predatory pricing, saying that it's an illegal act, right? So you can say that Kain Sedang Berhad can practice using below cost pricing to undercut the competitors and establish an unfair market advantage, right? Whereby the company can set a price which is so low that other suppliers cannot compete, and this is their main goal, which is to leave the market. So the company will initially report the losses, but then will benefit later by raising its prices again when competitors leave. But again, you need to mention that this is not an ethical practice to be done, okay? Because it can kill the market, and it's unfair, right? Okay, the last question that I would like to bring forward is July 2023, right? So this company, they manufacture packages, right? And then, so they have materials that they utilize to produce or manufacture the package. Dekat sini dia kata ada pine wood lah, ada apa lagi, ada roofing material that's made out of felt, right? And then they have two kind of labels, right? And the number of hours spent to produce that package, and then what would be other costs involved. Saya ada lagi sekejap. Wardah Norma Ismadi, there's another raise of hand. Okay, again, kalau ada apa-apa, you can voice out, yeah. Right, so the first one here, as you can see, the total marks is 15 marks, and here 5 marks is allocated for this theory section, right? Which is the 5 ways that you're going to suggest, right, to the company on what are the best ways to implement to reduce the target cost gap. Okay, these are some recommendations that you can make too. And also part C pun ada juga, which is advice, yeah. But that one we'll look at it later for the calculation part. So your advice must tally to your computation lah. Tak boleh lah cakap benda lain kan. So okay, so we look at the first portion here. Suggest 5 ways that the company may implement to reduce the target cost gap. So here, if you can recollect your knowledge on what you've learned, right? There are a number of things that you can provide recommendations on. Perhaps number one, okay, of course, because you say suggest kan, so your sentence can be as self-explanatory like this. Okay, boleh. Because 5 recommendations of 5 ways, so 1 point, 1 mark each, right? So the first one is reducing the number of components, right? So earlier on dia kata ada berbanyak pine wood and even felt roofing. So maybe you want to reduce the number of components used or reduce in size of the cat cage, and then using standard components wherever possible, but make sure that it doesn't compromise or jeopardize the quality of the product. Okay, that's the most important thing. The third one is training staff in more efficient techniques and also to increase the productivity level or speed up the learning curve. Okay, and then using different materials, mungkin jangan guna pine wood lah, guna other kind of wood. Okay, which can also again uphold the quality of the product juga, right? And then using cheaper stuff. Maybe that is semi-skilled. Maybe can you use a low-skill workers? Maybe if you provide training, right? And then acquiring new or more efficient technology, maybe less manpower, because it's faster, more units you can produce within the capacity of the business, right? And then value engineering in terms of looking into the value chain of the business, right? And then so then we can cut out all those non-value added activities that are not necessary, okay? So that can be done, right? Okay, now those are the theory sections, okay, the portion whereby some possible questions can be tested. And again, pay attention onto the verbs as per guided by the Bloom's taxonomy. So what is required of you? So make sure you fulfill those criteria in order for you to gain that full marks for theory section. Okay, now let's move on to the part yang you cemerlang, gemilang ni. Okay, yang terbilang. So important concepts to understand and formulas to use in the calculation. Yeah, ni very soy lah for all of you. Okay, so the first one is traditional pricing method. And so you want to calculate the cost of the product, right? So either you want to utilize using full cost plus, okay, pricing method using marginal cost plus, or even the minimum pricing of which this will cover, because the name goes minimum, so it will only cover the variable cost of the product and then opportunity cost, if any, if it is operating at full capacity, all right? And then also if there is any special or additional fixed cost or special assets that you have to acquire in order to produce the product, okay? And then this part here, the misconception, not all the time, sometimes happens, right? That students face to distinguish between markup versus margin, right? So of which the markup here is defined as that particular percentage which is added to the cost price of a product in order to determine its selling price. So the focus now is on the cost of that product, and on which the formula is to find out that percentage is when you take your selling price minus the cost price, divide by the cost price, because you're saying cost as the base, right? And multiply by 100. Okay, take a look at this simple example here. The cost price is $50, and the selling price of the product is 100. So to find out what is the profit markup, you take the selling price of 100 minus $50 of the cost price and divide by cost. And this and multiply by 100, and this will give you that the markup for the product is 100%. And then we look at margin, which is defined as the percentage of the selling price that represents the profit portion. Okay, so the focus is on the selling price, which will be used as the base of the on the selling price of the product. So the formula here is to calculate the percentage of the margin would be by taking your selling price minus out the cost price, and this time around you divide by the selling price multiplied by 100. So for this example, so you take that 100 ringgit of selling price minus that cost price of 50, divide by the selling price of 100 and multiply by 100%, and this will give you 50% profit margin. So again, in short, markup is based on cost, whereas margin will be based on selling price. Okay. So some other understanding that you need to apply when doing your calculation or some formulas will be the minimum pricing, as I mentioned earlier on, incremental cost of manufacturing, which covers your variable costs like your material, labor, overhead, right? And those variable portion and opportunity costs, and also those special fixed costs, if any, right? That has to be incurred. And then, right, the next one will be your, how do you calculate your target cost? Right, of course, because this presentation, another portion of it is to test students' knowledge on calculating the target cost, right? So of which this is calculated by taking the expected selling price, right? And you minus out that desired profit. And then whereby the focus or the key objective of target costing is to enable basically two things here sebenarnya, which is cost management, to manage the cost and also plan for the profit. So to use proactive cost planning, cost management, and cost reduction practices where costs are planned and calculated early in the design and development cycle rather than during the later stages of product development and production. Okay, so now the next one is you need to, once you already know how to calculate your target cost, so you need to find out what will be the target cost gap, right? So the formula here states that you take your estimated product cost and you minus out the target cost that you have calculated earlier on. So this target cost gap here tells us the difference, right? The variance between what an organization thinks it can currently make a product and what it needs to make the required profit. Okay, so it's explained as that. So when you have identified the target cost gap, the difference, right? So then you want to see if you can close the gap. How can you reduce or close the gap to achieve that target cost? So some suggestions, as you've seen just now, the methods to be used, right? So then basically the objective is to cut all the non-value added activities of the product. And so the cost can be reduced by, again, you want to substitute machine over your employees, maybe so that you can cut costs, and substitute current raw materials with other low cost materials without jeopardizing the quality of the product. And then review the product's features, maybe some components or features of the product that you can remove from the final goods. And then to also do not significantly add, which those that do not add value to the product when it is viewed by the customer, ataupun they do not value those features of the product. So you can remove that component. And this should reduce cost, but not the achievable selling price, however. Okay, so what can be done is by looking through the value engineering or value analysis. Okay, now we try to implement or apply in the calculation question, right? So refer back to your July 2024 question. Okay, the questions, the requirement of it says that number one, you are going to compute. So again, no explanation needed. Just calculate je lah. Say compute the target cost per unit. And the second part, students are required to compute the total cost gap in a week for the above scenario. So let's take a look at the scenario. A tiny electronics company specializing in producing a new innovative gadget has set a selling price for the gadget at 200 ringgit. The target return on sales is 25%. Okay. And the current cost of producing the gadget includes 120 ringgit for the materials, and it requires 6 hours to complete the gadget. Then the rate per hour is 10 ringgit for the labor cost. And the company plans to produce 200 gadgets per week. Also, sorry, I didn't ask you. Do we need a break? Cik Wan, are we good to go? Okay, ya?
Okey, proceed je. Tak apa.
Proceed je, ya? Boleh,
Ah,
ya? I think I can finish this early kot, insyaAllah. Yeah? Okay.
boleh. Okey.
So those now the 4 marks is being allocated here. So the first part requires you to calculate the target cost per unit. And as you can see, the formula is by taking your expected selling price minus out the desired profit. Okay, so the target cost here, 200 ringgit is the selling price for the gadget minus the desired profit, of which it says that the company wishes to ascertain 25% return on sales. So 25% terus dengan that 200 selling price. So the difference between the selling price and this desired profit is 150 ringgit. So this will be the target cost. Next, you are to compute the total cost gap in a week for the above scenario. So maybe you can find the cost gap dulu, and then you find out the total, of which you can take the estimated product cost given and minus out the target cost. So the current cost, as explained, there's 120 here, right? The current cost of producing a gadget, okay? But of which it requires 6 hours to complete. So this means that you have to also incorporate that labor cost. So 6 multiplied by 10 ringgit for the labor cost, right? So 120 plus 60 will give you 180 ringgit. That will be the current cost. So the total cost gap here will be, ataupun the cost gap is actually the difference between the estimated product cost and then the target cost. So the estimated product cost is 180. The target cost is 150 as calculated above here. Then to find out the total, you just multiply with that 200 gadgets per week. Because soalan dia require you to compute the total cost gap in a week. So don't forget this part here, because sometimes students can already know how to calculate the target cost gap, but because of their very small minor mistake in understanding the requirement of the question, because here it says total cost, right, for the entire week. So you have to multiply by 200 units, giving you the total cost gap at 6,000 ringgit. Okay, right. So that's the first part. Then let's take a look at the previous semester punya, which is January 2024. Okay, so look at part B. This is where the computation question is starting student at. So looking into the question, it says that they again are producing water filtration tabletop water filters known as spritzer. And then the company forecasts that 15,000 units of the product will be produced and sold. And highlight all those important information given. The budgeted fixed cost per month is 1,350,000, which consists of 450,000 of the production cost and the remaining 900,000 of administrative and selling costs. So the variable cost per unit are given as per in the table. Okay, the last paragraph, it tells us that the sales revenue of the sprinter is now decreasing because of a very intense competition lah. Okay, so now the management of the company, they are contemplating, should they change the pricing policy? So the company's management estimates that variable cost per unit and fixed cost will remain unchanged. And the marketing manager of the company seeks your advice as a consultant regarding the proposal of changing the price. Okay? So the first part is you need to calculate the selling price per unit of Sprinzer. Okay, but one thing, a key feature that you need to understand under target costing is that the price of the product is determined by the market condition. You see, stiff business competition here, right? So when that happens, the company now becomes a price taker rather than a price maker. They do not become the price setter. Okay, so the requirement, the first question here says that compute the selling price per unit of Sprinzer, okay, of which it says that the policy is that they want to set their selling price of the product at full cost plus 50% on cost. Meanwhile, the competitor offers their water at 1,260 ringgit per unit, right? This is what is being sold at the outside market. Okay, so first compute the selling price per unit per spinner. So to find out the selling price, you take the total cost plus the total cost multiplied by the 50% markup, right, on the full cost, right? So by looking at that, we have a direct material given, okay, and all the variable costs. So plug in those figures, and then don't forget you have also your fixed cost portion, of which because the total cost is given in the case, so all you need to do is to divide it by 15,000 units as mentioned in the question, because it is their practice that in December 2023, they forecasted that this 15,000 units of the product will be produced and sold. So you need to take those total costs divide by the 15,000 units. Hence, the fixed production cost per unit will be 30 ringgit. Okay, do the same for fixed administrative and selling costs, 900,000. Yeah, so now we divide it by 15,000 units, and this will give you the fixed administrative and selling cost per unit will be 60 ringgit. Right, so then you will have your total cost, and you need to add up that 50% markup, right? So 50% from that full cost of 920, right? Variable cost plus your fixed cost. So that will be 460. Thus, the selling price is 1,380 ringgit. Okay, so I guess this part here, no problem lah. Basically, students typically score when it comes to the calculation of the pricing method. Okay, so the next portion here is for students to calculate the target cost per unit and the total cost gap for December 2023 if the company wants to maintain its current profit markup. Okay, so the target cost, the expected selling price, again, yeah, because now it's selling at 1,260 if you want to sell it in that external market, and the desired profit. Okay, all right, so by looking into this formula, apply those figures into the formula. So we have your target selling price at 1,260, and the target profit here, as mentioned, is also still they want to have 50%, right? Because they want to maintain the current profit markup. So that is 50 over 150, right? Multiplied by 1,260 at the selling price. And then that will give you 420. Therefore, the target cost per unit is 840. So you take the expected selling price set by the outside market minus the desired or target profit the target cost is 840. So now we want to calculate the target cost gap by taking the estimated product cost minus the target cost that you have derived here. So we have this target cost per unit at 840. The current cost, as per we have calculated earlier in this computation here, right? 920. So the difference here will give us 80. So that will be the cost gap. To find out the total cost gap, you need to multiply with the 15,000 units that the company wishes to produce and sell. So the total cost gap will be 1.2 million. Okay? All right. So again, these are all just figures. And then we move on to the final question, which is July 2023. The company that wants to produce pet cages. Okay, perhaps a cat cage, right? So this pet cage is called cat patio. So this is it provides feline safety and enrichment outdoors. So Catio is made from pine wood and is famous for its design and has become a perfect solution to lovers indoor, to cat lovers, yeah, indoor and outdoor dilemma in order to keep their cats safe, healthy, and happy. So the company produces 1,000 units of Catio in a month. So based on the current pricing policy, a unit of Catio contributes 280 of the contribution margin to the company. So it's given to you the desired profit, okay, or contribution, desired contribution here. So Catio requires the use of good quality pine wood, of which it takes 6 meters of pine wood to build 1 unit of Catio. And then this pine wood will cost 50 ringgit per meter. And also to produce that Catio, they require 2 meters square of felt roofing material, which costs 25 ringgit per meter square, and they need 2 direct labor hours. And then these laborers will spend 4 hours each to complete a unit of catio. So direct laborers will be paid at 7 ringgit per hour. Okay, other information pertaining to the production of the catio ni, kita ada apa? Manufacturing overhead cost totaling 103,000 has been incurred during the 1 month. So they've given to you the and they told you that the variable portion is absorbed into a unit of catio based on direct labor hours of 3 ringgit 50 cent per hour. And on the other hand, variable selling expenses are 24 ringgit per unit of catio, and this amount is included in the total selling and distribution cost of 54,000. The fixed administrative cost incurred was 47,000. So again, pricing decision question as well as other questions in your Math 551, it all boils down to the requirement or the storyline in the case for you to understand or follow the storyline, and then can you apply your answers based on the requirement of the question. Okay, so look into part B. It says calculate the current selling price for a unit of catio using the company's current pricing policy. So 4 marks is awarded here. To find out the current selling price, you take your total variable cost. Remember, because dia kata kat sini, the pricing policy here, now is you want to take your total variable cost plus the contribution margin. Because dia kata company's pricing policy is the current selling price. Okay, look, right here. So you take all the information here as from the case. So pine wood is 90 ringgit, of which you take 6 meters, right, of pine wood needed, and of which 15 ringgit per meter is charged. The felt roofing is 50 ringgit, of which you take 2 meters square and multiply at 25 ringgit per meter square. And the direct labor, 2 labors, right? So 2 direct labor multiplied by the 4 hours in order to complete the 1 unit of catio, and they are paid at 7 ringgit per hour. So the total direct labor is 56 ringgit. What about variable manufacturing overhead? The information given is on the last paragraph. So to get that is when you take your 8 hours, right? The 8 hours of 2 direct labor multiplied by 4 hours, because the basis is that is based on direct labor hours, right? Of 3 ringgit 50 cent per hour. So the variable manufacturing overhead is 28 ringgit. The variable selling and distribution cost, as mentioned here, will be 24 ringgit, as mentioned in the last paragraph. Hence, you will able to find the total variable cost and immediately add on to your contribution margin given in the first paragraph as stated at 280. Therefore, the current selling price is 528 ringgit, of which consists of the total variable cost plus the contribution margin. Okay? All right. So that's the part when you need to calculate the current selling price. All right. The next one is they're giving you another scenario whereby, in this case, the competition forces pet care to revise its pricing strategy to become more competitive. So when it's becoming more competitive, meaning to say they have to match it, the price that is being sold in the open market or the external market. So what happens now? The management accountant, Encik Muaz, has proposed the use of target pricing. So Encik Muaz has studied the market and discovered that a cat patio similar to catio is sold at only 500 ringgit in the open market. So you are required to, there are three things here, okay, that you need to fulfill. Calculate the target cost for unit of catio if the company wants a 25% profit markup. And then how much is its target cost gap? And advise with reason the management of if Encik Muaz's suggestion is feasible. So your advice or the comments that you're going to give to Encik Muaz will depend greatly on your computation. If you can prove that can you sell it at the same cost, at the same price, okay? Now, so in this case, the target cost of a unit of catio, if the company wants a 25% profit markup when target selling price is 500. So by looking into this formula, you can start implementing the figures. So target cost is expected selling price minus our desired profit. The selling price as at the open market is 500. The target profit is 100, of which you take your 25% profit markup, of which is 25 over 100 plus 25, and multiply by 500 ringgit of that selling price. So this will be 100 ringgit. So the target cost is 400, right? So the difference between the two is 400. So now the next part, it says how much is the calculate target cost for a unit. So now how much is the target cost gap? Now, so target cost gap is by taking the estimated product cost and minus out the target cost calculated here, of which the estimated product cost as calculated earlier on, the total variable cost 248 ringgit, right? And then now you need to add on to other fixed costs, right? Because earlier on was just variable cost involved. So now you need to calculate the fixed portion. So the fixed manufacturing cost allocated will be taking the total of the fixed manufacturing cost and then minus out the basis given here, of which it says here that it is absorbed into a unit of the catio based on direct labor hours, right? Of which will be charged at 3 ringgit 50 per hour. So 2 labors multiplied by 4 hours and multiplied by the total of 1,000 units that you're going to produce at 3 ringgit 50 cent, the basis, right, of direct labor hour. So you minus those between the two, the fixed and this variable portion, and then you can get divide by the 1,000 units. Okay, only then can you find the fixed manufacturing cost per unit is 75 ringgit because the totals has been given. You need to find out what's the fixed portion. So the fixed selling and distribution cost here would be looking into the total of these total selling and distribution is 54,000. So you need to minus out the variable portion, right, of which is given here 24 ringgit, right, per unit. So multiply 1,000. So the difference divide by the 1,000 units to get the fixed selling and distribution cost per unit of 30 ringgit. Then you add that 47 ringgit of administrative cost, which is the total is 47,000. So divide je lah dengan 1,000. So that will give you the fixed administrative cost will be 47. So therefore, when you add your total variable cost to all your fixed costs, then this will give you estimated cost of 400. So, and then your target cost is also, as we prepare here, you're going to compare it now, is also 400. So which tells us that the target cost gap is 0. So what does this mean? So now it's on to you to advise to Encik Muaz if this practice, right, is feasible ke tak? Because now they want to change to a different strategy, right? So yes, you're going to say that Encik Mu asked, this suggestion is highly feasible since the target cost gap is zero, meaning that the target cost matches the estimated cost ataupun is similar to, right? So the target cost is similar to the estimated cost. So therefore, pet care can proceed to set the price of that Catio product at 500 ringgit to remain competitive in the market. Okay, so with that, I rasa itu saja kot dalam bahagian computation that they normally ask. So if you browse through again, questions such as, again, target cost gap, and then looking into the pricing method, right? And then so for you to set what will be the selling price, so that will be under your calculation portion. Your theory, as also mentioned in the earlier portion here that I've said, what students will need to read on will be here in terms of the common strategies as well as the factors influencing pricing decision, not forgetting to read the objectives, the advantages and limitations, right? And also other ethical implications, if any, right? So here are some last reminders before I guess so early 4:22, yeah. Before I end, if you have any question, you may raise a question or share it here. We have a few lecturers on board as well. They can help to entertain you should you have any questions, right? Okay, sekejap. Okay. So again, the tips or strategies improving the understanding on the scores of the topic, as I mentioned earlier on, again, to understand the basics or the concepts, to read, then practice, bukan saja the calculation question, but also the theory question. Make sure that you can draft a right full sentence that you understand and also meets the understanding for what we have learned, and then recheck your answers, making doa, and also, of course, tawakal. Other do's and don'ts these are just general reminders lah, okay? General reminders is that when you do calculation ke or even theory subjects ke, to always be in control in order to manage your fear and stress. Then sleep is very important, right? So sleep on time, and also always practice a positive mindset, right? And then this part here, yes, handwriting matters. Sekarang ni is very easy, students use their tab, right? So, but this time around, you really need to practice writing. Okay, make sure that your writing, boycott season can consider under economic condition. Four factor. Okay, hang on. Let me just finish this first, all right? Before I attend, it's all in the chat box, right? Right. So, and then we have handwriting here, like I said, making sure that it is readable so that when we see it clearly, then can we award you marks, right? And then also to bring in your own stationery and your calculator, please, right? Because this has happened, yeah, no kidding, this happened, and sometimes ada students yang tertinggal even other things like examination slip and whatnot. And then this part here I have to remind, because the examiners also please mention that please start your answers on a fresh page. So new question, new page. Okay, don't do it or compile under one page ataupun squeeze in answers here and there. Don't do that, because we have to flip pages. Chances are we might overlook your answers, right? And then stay calm, right? And then also short sentences, the sentence that you can understand. So time management is key. So I've shared with you from question 1 right up to question 5, right? So how can you apportion the time or allocate the right time? So, and then before in terms of before the exam, what you need to do is balance between the time obviously you study, play or exercise, eat and rest, and during is to make sure that you keep track of the time and strategize your approach. Okay, so make sure that the allocated time that we've shared earlier on, you keep track of that time. Okay, work within that time limit. Okay, because if you are already exceeding the time limit, please proceed, move forward. Who knows that the time that you may have spare time in the end, and that you can come back and revisit the question. And after, celebrate your efforts, be grateful, and then stay calm. And the don'ts is that ini pernah berlaku juga, showing up at the wrong exam venue. So you need to do your homework, make sure that you get the right venue, the right time, then the right paper, right? So do not forget your examination slip or your student card, no card, no entry, and then the dress code, and then yang ni lah, paling parah yang ni lah, wrong day or time. Kalau terlepas, oh please pray, don't pray that for that, yeah. So with that, I guess on this very brief sharing, I'd like to thank all of you for attending, participating, and then also for challenging yourself. So the part where I shared about the common findings too, right? I know this chapter is of an advantage to you, inshallah. I pray so. But make sure that, again, like I said, you uphold to that standard that you're going to perform better and better every semester. So trying to push yourself to the limits and also be you, be yourself. And for all the good deeds, the hard work that you put in, inshallah, Allah will bless you and reward you handsomely. And thank you for attending all your classes and also this knowledge sharing, and all the best for your final exam. 4:30. All right, look at this. So you have your, tengok mana, I kena buka at the other computer because saya tak boleh baca checkbox yang lain. Hang on ya. Okay. So I have a question here. Oh yeah, link kehadiran. Please fill in the form. And then, okay, we have a question from Muhammad Aiman. He says here that boycott season can consider under economic condition for factor influence pricing. This is my opinion, yeah. Maybe other lecturers can have a different understanding, because this is something that is beyond the control of an organization. So yes, like a recession, like inflation, like company strike, it can also fall under an economic condition or beyond the controls of organization. So your explanation can also include that as an example, right? What do other teaching lecturers would like to add on? Ada ke? Yeah, because it does influence the economy and significantly on their pricing decisions. Okay, do we have any more? Either you want to turn on your microphone or you want to type onto the chat box. And then also don't forget to key in your attendance here. There's a bit of feedback that's required as well. So I'm going to also share the video ya, sekejap ya, if I may. It's very quiet here. Macam ni lah ya, online session. Hmm. This is it. And one more maybe. Just for sharing purposes, yeah. Okay. So I've given to you um those two links for the YouTube for it's just a general lecture, yeah. It's just a general, like I said, general and brief lecture on pricing method. And then also the second part talks about the pricing strategies. Okay. Anything else that we would like to share, discuss here?
Minta pelajar jangan isi link yang awal saya bagi ya. Link awal saya bagi tu tersilap link. Tu sesi yang lepas.
Oh, ya ke?
Ambil yang kemudian link kehadiran tu. Ada yang saya dah bagi. 2-3 kali saya dah post. Okay, isi balik. Yang mana dah terisi awal, tolong isi balik
Okay, ulang siaran ya. Tolong isi link kehadiran, the last one and the last portion tu. Okay? Not the earlier one. This is for the current session punya. The one that's been shared by series 1, ya. Sekejap.
Okey, kalau tak ada apa, kita tamatkan kita punya revision class today. Boleh tak masing-masing buka okay, Emma boleh stop sharing Tak apa.
Okay, alright.
Okay, boleh buka gambar tak? Kita ambil gambar macam biasa sebagai bukti you hadir.
Yes.
Tengok, orang Johor, lecturer Johor awal-awal dia dah buka. Mentang-mentang lah Jumaat sana dah kerja. Selalu Jumaat dia tak kerja, dia cuti. Kak Fiza mute.
Tu ada.
Selalu dah dekat icon save ke kat mana kan?
Itulah. Hari ni dah kena kerja.
Okay, the rest?
Okay, tak apa. Nanti saya akan postkan link untuk YouTube yang mana kita dah buat recording. So far dah ada termasuk hari ini dah ada 4 session. So nanti kita akan postkan dekat you all sebelum you all duduk final exam lah. Kita habiskan sampai minggu depan ada satu lagi sesi. Okay. Dan selepas itu dah complete lah kita punya revision dan kita akan postkan dekat you all boleh baca lah dan boleh tengok balik yang mana topik-topik mana yang you tak boleh faham dan sebagainya untuk you buat revision. Dan jangan risau, you all punya final exam kalau tak silap saya 12 hari bulan 2, sebulan lagi. Lama lagi. Okay, tak apa, still ada masa. Seperti mana Puan Madam Emma pun dah bagi tahu tips-tips apa yang nak perlu buat dan sebagainya. Minggu lepas pun dah ada. It's a same thing, benda-benda yang sama sahaja Okay, mana yang lain? Silalah buka, janganlah malu-malu. Tak apa, duduk ramai-ramai pun tak apa. Kat belakang-belakang tu ramai-ramai pun tak apa. Saya tahu you all duduk dekat hostel ramai-ramai buka satu macam buka tengok wayang pula ke, tak apa, tak kisah. Maybe Madam Emma pun boleh kalau nak screenshot pun tak apa.
Because I'm using
Okay.
Anorsha punya komputer. My mic is not working kan tadi. So I cannot maneuver dengan dia punya komputer lah. Sebab banyak dokumen terbuka.
Okay, tak apa. It's okay. Kita ada, Alhamdulillah kita ada lebih kurang dalam 70-80 screen. Saya tak kira pelajar, saya kata screen sebab setiap ada separuh, ada satu screen tu sampai 4 orang, 5 orang pelajar dia share. So saya guna screen. So kita lebih kurang dalam 4, makna kalau saya budget, saya double up kan, makna lebih kurang dalam 150, 160 orang lah. Alhamdulillah lah juga. Okay. Mungkin ada yang attempt mana-mana bengkel ke dan sebagainya, itu yang tak dapat hadir. Okay, tak apa. Terima kasih. Saya dah ambil gambar dah. Siapa yang ada je lah sebagai bukti. Okay, terima kasih semua. Have a nice holiday, weekend. Okay, jumpa minggu depan.
Maaf kekurangan. Thank you Cik Wan for helping and all the best to all. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Madam Emma.
Thank you so much to all of you. Assalamualaikum.